Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Lunar Goddess Tarot. I'm Sarah and I'll be your intuitive guide and your reader today. We have our avian friends here. Whenever I come to this park, my favorite park in the whole world, I'm always surrounded by birds. Yesterday it was a wood stork who came right up to me and we startled each other. And right now I have I believe it's a crow hanging out. So blessings from the winged messengers, from the realm of the winged messengers. They're very special to me. So it's so wonderful and beautiful for me to be able to share one of my favorite places with you guys, and really enjoy doing these videos out in nature. So thank you for your flexibility and allowing me to expand the way in which I create videos and deliver information. So I'm taking a little bit of a break from the cards. I did a video yesterday in this format, and I also might do a card reading in a little bit here because it's just so beautiful out, and I want to take advantage of this amazing weather before it gets too warm later today. So what I'm going to do is, as promised on the video short that I did yesterday, is we're going to talk about why your counterpart, why the divine counterpart would choose karmic partners. Excuse me. Why they would choose karmic partners, why they would choose to stay married to a karmic partner, why they would choose to go into another karmic relationship after relationship, when you express to them that you're full and ready and wanting and able to commit to them. So we're going to discuss this because it's probably not the reason why you would initially think. Okay, so let's break this down. The divine counterpart is your divine mirror. So they're going to reflect back to you. They're not a soulmate, okay? They're from the same, they share the same fabric as you, the same soul fabric. So they're not here to, like a soulmate obviously can be a mirror. Anybody can be a mirror, but the divine counterpart is your perfect mirror, meaning that whatever it is that's inside of you that's unhealed, they will mirror that back to you in real time, whereas a soulmate may not mirror it back in real time. A friend or family member who is a karmic energy, they may not mirror that back to you in real time, but there's likely some mirroring that will happen because that's how we learn. We learn from one another. The divine counterpart does this distinctly in a unique way, and in a way in which you're going to be heavily triggered, at least initially, when you don't necessarily understand what's happening. A lot of people meet their counterpart and the counterpart's married, and the counterpart says, well, I don't know if I'm ever going to leave, and they may give you societal reasons. Well, what would my family think? Or I would be ostracized, or what about my children? Or they're going to empty my bank account, or my dad did that to my mother, so I'm not going to do that, or my mom did that to my dad, so I'm not going to do that. So they may express reasons that are very 3D, that are very, constructed in the 3D format, in the 3D reality and matrix, and you're going, this is ridiculous, this is love, this is overwhelming unconditional love, we should be together. And it's not that they don't want to be with you. I think that's the hardest thing to grasp. When they're committing to somebody else, it's a superficial commitment. It may be a piece of paper, it may be a marriage, but that marriage is long over by the time they meet you. I can guarantee if it's a karmic partner, soulmate's a different story. If it's a karmic partner, their time has run out, that thread has run out. They've learned their lessons, and it's just a matter if they're gonna extend the time, if they're gonna go past the expiration date and just be delivered tower moment after tower moment in that connection, or if they're gonna choose to face their fears and face their self and face their wounds and their own darkness and shadows, which is what you present to them. They look at the feminine and they see the light and they see the joy and they see the possibilities. After a while, what happens, and this is when the separation, the triggering starts to happen, right? You guys start to trigger each other. You start to, you have an argument or a disagreement, or suddenly the feminine says, I'm not okay being second. I'm not okay with you committed to someone else and then seeing me whenever you have free time. Actually, that goes against my morals and my values. And you have this internal fight, feminine, where you might say, this is just not something I ever saw myself doing. I can't believe I got tied up in this. And you might put your foot down, and you might see the masculine still not choosing you or still not choosing the connection. This is because they're not ready to face themselves. They're not ready to walk that path that is going to deliver them the lessons that they know they need to face at some point in time. If they've had childhood abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, it's not necessarily that they're walking away from you, but they're walking away from the possibility of having to face that past and face that trauma. And they may just not feel equipped. They may just be scared and just be so fearful that it's easier for them to go back to what seems comfortable. However, upon meeting the counterpart, your life will be anything but comfortable. So Divine Masculine, if you're a Divine Masculine who's watching this, who's nodding your head in agreement, saying, yes, this is exactly why I've stayed, and you think that it's going to get more comfortable, or it's going to go back, you're going to be able to go back into that karmic relationship and go through the same cycles and the same, and apply the same method and have it work, that's not going to happen. Typically, the marriage or relationship the masculine is in, upon meeting the feminine, will start to crumble. Once that relationship or marriage begins to crumble, they can fight and cling and hold on as much as they want to, but oftentimes it's the karmic partner who leaves. It's the karmic partner who says, actually, I have someone on the side. Actually, I don't want to be in this marriage or relationship anymore. They will feel the presence of the feminine. They will feel your presence. Even if there's been other partners the masculine has had in an attempt to reconcile with themselves, in an attempt to try to save the marriage or try to stick it out. Let me just have a partner on the side. And then they meet the feminine, who's the ultimate partner of all partners. And they go, wow, this is actually somebody I could spend my life with and I could actually be happy with. If they don't believe that they deserve that love or that happiness, they will not be able to commit to you. They will go and find another karmic partner who's going to match their wounds and match their vibration. So if they lack self-love and self-acceptance, they will find somebody who also lacks self-love and self-acceptance. And that person will mirror back to them what they need to heal. Because the feminine sees the masculine in unconditional love. She's not able to reflect back to him those wounds because she's healed them herself by the time she's met the masculine in the physical, at least to a certain extent. So the karmic partner looks and feels like their perfect match because their wounds match. That's what a karmic partner is. So the feminine, if you look back to your karmic relationships and karmic partners, you were attracted to those people, those bad boys or bad girls, right? You're attracted to them because your wounds matched, because they were able to mirror back to you your unworthiness because you didn't believe you were worthy. So as long as the masculine feels like they're unworthy of receiving the love and attention and affection of a partner that is going to unconditionally accept and love them like the feminine does, they will return over and over again to these karmic cycles. So the feminine often asks, is it my fault? What can I do to prevent this from happening, or to avoid this, or to break the cycle? It may not necessarily be about you. It could just be this is something that the physical counterpart has to heal, and their template and their blueprint. So feminine, the best thing you can do is focus on being the best version of yourself throughout this process. Focus on your strength, focus on your gifts, focus on continuing to give back and continuing to create a life that you really love waking up to, that you deserve. We're in this unraveling process right now, which I want to talk more about, and I hope to do that in a reading with the cards. I did bring cards with me today because there's this Aries full moon that I'm not going to get into detail right now, but I just want to touch on this because I'm going to talk about this in the next video and in a Patreon post and in a dedicated video to this full moon that's coming October 9th and 10th this weekend. What's going to happen is this full moon in Aries is bringing full circle what transpired back in April during that new moon, okay, in Aries. And this is going to bring our power back around. This is going to open us up. It's going to allow us to really not just speak the truth, but step into that truth, embody that truth in a more powerful way, in a way that's more active, because Aries is all about action. Aries doesn't sit back. It's not Cancer. It's not Libra. It's not Virgo. It is like full force, full action, right? It's passion. It's impassioned energy. So I want to talk about that because that's going to shift the way the masculine sees their karmic situation, because a lot of them have gone back to these karmic situations. It's coming up when I tap into their energy. And I know that's a trigger. And at the same time, they're learning these lessons that they need to learn in order to move forward, in order to break free. understand that your wound template will not match the masculine's until it does. So you meet the masculine and it feels like this is the perfect partner. This is something we could actually have a life together. We could create together. And you think, and you guys both kind of come together. You start building your future, visualizing it. And then something happens to tear you apart. And then you might come back together. I mean, my counterpart and I had several mini separations for several months or weeks or months that led to a big separation of about a year and a half. And then we came back together, very short period of time to trigger each other very, very painfully and vividly, and went into another separation. Each separation, I feel, it's a testament to the strength and courage of each counterpart to dive deeper, to go within. And actually, if you're able to go into that separation and separate fully from each other, you know that you can survive on your own. You know you can thrive on your own. And I think there's something to be said for that. Now, not every couple will go into that full separation, but I feel like the ones that have been in full separation, no talking, no reaching out, no nothing, no stalking them, just full separation where you even energetically separate, where you're able to pull your energy back into yourself, and whatever energy you might focus on the counterpart, instead you're focusing on yourself, and you're focusing on what it is that you want to build and what it is that you want to create. And so you empower yourself. And the more you do that, the more the masculine can grow and can breathe. Because again, like I said yesterday, they were being stifled by the feminine because the feminine was sort of all up in their business, And the masculine's like, I need space and room to breathe. And the feminine said, okay, and fully walked away. Many of you have fully walked away. And what that did is it sort of settled the score, okay? And it brought you, so now you've both been the runner, you've both been the chaser. Now you've both experienced what the other person experienced. And I think this is important because it allows both of you to understand each other more fully, so that when you do come back together, you not only have stories to tell each other about what you've done and where you've been and who you've become and what you've learned, but also to be able to empathize and put yourself in their shoes and say, I know what it's like to be the runner and it was exhausting, and I know what it's like to be the chaser and it was heartbreaking, excruciating. So if your counterpart is meddling with a karmic partner, has moved in with them, married them, had a child with them, all of these things can happen. Perhaps you met them when they were married and then they got divorced and they came back to you, and then lo and behold, they're in another karmic relationship, or you get back together briefly and then they go into another karmic relationship. From a 3D standpoint, right? If you ask your friends or family, they're going to say asshole, jerk, right? They're going to have all these names, right? They're going to have all these judgments, and you yourself will feel that because it's painful to experience that. Why would my counterpart get divorced or break up with a partner just to go to somebody else when I'm right here? Because, feminine, you have a mission here on earth. Your mission is greater than this one person. You have to expand your vision beyond this one person who is really you in the flesh, just living in a different body, living a different experience, but it's you. It's always been you. It's never not been you. So your counterpart is just another variation or version of yourself. And this is why I'm repeating this, because it can take time to understand and learn and grasp this concept that there's another you walking around in another body. Especially if, I've had several clients who are not spiritual or weren't spiritual until they met their counterpart. They're very rational, logical scientists, this is not something, this is outside their realm of comfort. This is outside their realm of understanding the world as they've known it, as they've seen it. But your world gets opened up. Your identity gets deconstructed on this journey. Your belief system gets tested. You get tested to your very core when you meet your counterpart, and you will question everything. Some people, some feminines have chosen to, by the time you meet your counterpart, you will have already, luckily, gone through all of your karmic relationships and partners. Again, that's why I'm saying, like for me, I met all my karmic partners before I met the counterpart. I will not have another karmic relationship again. I wouldn't step foot into that because I recognize it I can honor those. I've learned the lessons, but I have no desire or no need to step back into that cycle with anybody else. So I recognize it and I step back, like many of you. So therefore, when my counterpart needed to learn certain lessons, I couldn't teach those to him because I've already stepped away and broken away from those karmic cycles and karmic partners and karmic patterns. So he matched with somebody who would show him, yes, you're unworthy. Here, let me show you how unworthy you are. And it's toxic. It's toxic, as stated by him. But did he go back? Yes. Why? Because he didn't deem himself worthy yet, because he hadn't yet worked on those deeper wounds of unworthiness. It's a wound, it's a core wound that affects every single person on this earth. The unworthiness wound. I am not enough as I am. Some people believe I'm too much, which I think is another variation of unworthiness. I'm too much or I'm not enough. So if you're too much, you dim your light. And if you feel like you're not enough, you may act out. You don't know how to present yourself authentically. So you're just you're kind of trying to just pull from this and pull from that and trying to be accepted. And we've all experienced this at different times. Think back to your childhood. Maybe you've been bullied. Maybe you were just trying to fit in. Maybe you switched schools a lot. You were military kid and you were trying to fit in. Maybe you just were different and you knew it because you're a star seed. And you're like, this is Earth, I don't belong here. And maybe you wanted to talk about things and kids were like, what? She's weird or he's weird. And you felt ostracized, you felt different, and you knew it from a young age. This has nothing to do with looks, by the way. Because I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with said, people never understood because I'm so attractive and yet I was always different, I was always weird. So these clients that are physically, they'd be pursued, right, by people who were attracted to them, and then once they got to know them, that you're weird, you're different. It has nothing to do with physical attractiveness. This has everything to do with your soul and who you are at your core. This is just a body. This is just a vessel that we chose to carry the soul. And think about it, this body has taken a beating. If you've experienced the physical ascension symptoms, which by the way, the masculines have started to experience those, so they're going to start to have a better understanding of the feminine's fatigue, the feminine's exhaustion, the feminine being sick, all the time, the feminine needing rest, the feminine needing to withdraw from social situations. Those masculines who were partiers, which many of them were, those masculines who had addictions like drugs or alcohol, gambling, those masculines who had these high-powered jobs, suddenly they're finding that they're running out of fuel and they don't have the ability to power themselves up the way they used to, like to go out and drink and wine and dine clients and then wake up the next morning and have a meeting at 8 a.m. and do it all over again and be presentable. That's why a lot of the masculines have lost their jobs or are stepping back, or you're going to find that they suddenly don't care about the same things they used to care about. Suddenly they're realizing what is important in this life because they've exhausted themselves. So they're facing sheer exhaustion. And now, not only are they experiencing physical symptoms of ascending, if you want to call it, if we want to give it a label, but also they're experiencing the feminine's complete pull back and pull away so that they can no longer zap your energy or tap into you for fuel because you're not there anymore. And when they try to do this with the karmic just not available for that. That's not the karmic's role. That's not their job. And frankly, they don't have that to give. They're both just taking from each other. So they both end up exhausted in this this template, this karmic, divine masculine template. Another thing that the masculine has to heal in these relationships with karmics is lust. This, sexual desire, sexual attraction, equating that with love, thinking that's love, mistaking that for love, realizing that love is commitment, love is unconditional, love is deeper. So they know they love the feminine. That's never been a question for them. If you ask them, they'll tell you, I've always loved you. They won't deny that love for the feminine. But if the feminine, let's say, isn't as sexual as the karmic, or the feminine presents herself differently, she presents herself in a more refined way, she presents herself, maybe the karmic dresses more provocatively and the feminine, covers up. Maybe the karmic is more outgoing, the feminine's more, introverted. The masculine may look at that and think, okay, this is what I want, or this is what I need. Or maybe they're in a similar place in life. That's something the masculine will often use is, well, I just don't know. We're just different people and we have different habits or different daily. I actually heard that from my masculine. I just don't know, Sarah, because we have different daily routines. And I went, what do you even, now you're just pulling at straws. What are you even talking about? Who cares? Plenty of couples have different daily routines. I think that's exciting. I think we could learn from each other. But in their minds at that time, the masculine sees the feminine as not too much of a challenge, but too different, too separate, because what they see in the feminine, hi baby, hello, do you have a story to tell? Hey baby. I think he's in agreement with everything I'm saying. Because the masculine feels like they have to have a match. And part of that is the ego that says, well, I need to have someone as successful as me in the material world. I need to have someone who is just as driven as me. The truth is that the feminine's more driven than the karmic will ever be, because the feminine isn't about material success, although you can be, and that's perfectly fine. But at her core, the feminine is here to lift the vibration of the world. It's a much more powerful, much more attractive, much more exotic, much more seductive quality than the karmic could ever have. The karmic can't see beyond her own, or his or her own toes or feet or bedroom or bathroom or house. They all they see is what they're gaining. The feminine represents the ideal, but the masculine thinks the karmic is the ideal because it's an illusion that has to be shattered. Oftentimes, your divine masculine will be an empath, and I hate to say it, but the karmic could be a narcissist or a narcissistic personality, and it's a moth to a flame. You know this, feminine, because many of you, many clients I've worked with have experienced these karmic partners before meeting, prior to meeting the divine counterpart. I will also say that on your journey, if you've experienced a narcissistic partner, you may in turn experience other narcissists pop up, narcissistic friends, narcissistic coworkers that you then have to contend with. And you're able to see how far you've grown and how you choose to respond versus react, and the ways in which these people can be very covert and can appear to be something they're not. And these are lessons to learn on the journey. And it's important that the masculine learn this lesson. So if your masculine is with a narcissistic type partner, you may find yourself, feminine, dealing with a narcissistic person or individual in your life at the same time, so that you're both actually mirroring each other, but in different ways. So the more that you can lift yourself up, the more you can see clearly, the more you can choose yourself, the more you can assert your voice, which this full moon in Aries will help us do. Clear out anything that's been holding you back since that April new moon in Aries, to take initiation and action. The more you can do that, the more likely you are to be able to assist the counterpart in breaking free from their narcissistic cycle. It's very interesting how things will be popping up at this time, and you'll be able to have these aha moments and revelations about people in your life. If you have a narcissistic type person in your life, keep them contained, put them in a box, deal with them as little as possible, protect your energy, protect your light, and say as little as possible. Give as little as possible to this individual. Do not allow your power to be stripped from you. Do not allow them to take away your light. Keep shining your light, keep being you. Don't allow your voice to be silenced. Again, I think a lot of the masculines are dealing with narcissistic partners, and it can be very challenging to break away from that type of person if you don't feel like you're worthy. And the masculine has convinced themselves also, this is one reason, another reason yet, that they choose the karmic partners and might break away from the feminine. Sorry guys, my feet are getting bit by ants. That's the only drawback from this park. So I have to kind of lift my feet up because there's red ants here. That's another takeaway from this, or another fact, another aspect of this is the masculine has to feel worthy enough to break away, has to feel the feminine has completely stepped back. In a lot of your situations, you've stepped completely away. So they've convinced themselves, see, it's true, I'm not worthy. Because look, but then they have to at one point look at themselves and stop playing victim and say, wait a minute, I pushed them away. I told them to go away. I chose somebody else. Of course they walked away. So they created this. They pushed you away on purpose because they say you deserve better. And they know that the person they're committing to isn't as good as you. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way or 3D way. I mean that in, you are their counterpart. Nobody could be as good as you for them, as good of a match, as good of a partner. But your vibration has to match, guys. So them choosing the karmic partner, to sum this up, is all about vibration and energy. It's all about wounds. And if wounds match or they don't, again, if you're like this, and your wounds aren't matching, the feminine will not go backwards. You are not allowed to go backwards on this journey. And I'm not saying like, as a rule, I'm saying the divine, your light team, they will not allow you to go backwards. They will only allow you to go forward. So if you're being pushed backwards into an old cycle by the masculine, they will separate you until the masculine is healthy enough to be able to approach you in a way that really honors you and respects you and your energy and your divine union. I hope this has been helpful, guys. If you'd like a private coaching session or a private reading for me to look into your energy, look into your situation, discuss where you might not even know that you have blocks, or where you may need help with setting up boundaries with your excuse me, with your counterpart, that can be very challenging. If they're in a karmic situation and you still want to be with them or have them in your life, let's talk about how to put up those healthy boundaries and where your blocks might be, how this might be divine mirroring, where you can look inside yourself to heal those wounds to move forward. Take really good care, guys. Stay blessed, and I will see you guys for the next video. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're enjoying this new format, because I know I surely am. Take care.